Good morning, and welcome to the third annual Business Transfer Workshop. It is awesome to see so many of you turn up on a Friday morning. I think most of you are new to the event, so maybe I'll just give a brief description on how this program started. Many of the business students here at PCC are looking into taking classes here for the first 2 years. Obviously, it is less expensive because of tuition, and also they get quality education, smaller class sizes. So after the 2 years, they plan to move to a 4-year college. And in all this, the students are looking into not just one institution, but 2 institutions, and lots of rules, policies to take care of. And we can only imagine how challenging it can be to weave through 2 institutions. So in the last 2 years, we have had Portland State University folks, their team of advisors and admissions office, and also students who moved from a community college to PSU. They have come here and shared a wealth of information. And PCC advisors also elaborate on the transfer process. And the feedback received has been really excellent. So we decided to bring it back and, in fact, make it an annual event and sort of normalize the process. I am the department chair for business here. My name is Usha Ramanujam, and I'm really pleased that faculty, students from all the campuses at PCC are here today, and they've made the time to be here on a Friday morning. One variation this year is the kickoff event, which is the executive panel. This has been made possible because of the internationalization committee that is in PCC. I am a member of the committee, and there are some members of the committee here in the audience. And thanks to that committee, the panel event is possible, and also the wonderful breakfast you had. It's compliments of the internationalization committee, and also the folders and supplies you have. So, and it's wonderful that the business department is able to collaborate with the internationalization committee to make this happen. So first, we will start with the executive panel, and then the event continues for students with presentations from PSU and PCC advisors. I want to welcome the PSU folks here, Becky and Wenyi, and Kelly. So, Dave Stout, who's sitting there, our colleague, and also Dean for World Languages and English at Sylvania campus, will be moderating the panel. He is also a member of the Internationalization Committee. So let me introduce Dave. He has a doctorate from Cornell University in German language and literature. And he started teaching German in a number of institutions. Let me think if I remember. Cornell, Pacific University, and Lewis and Clark, Hamilton College in New York, Austin College in Texas. So you can see he's been around. And then he was a dean at Pacific University for a number of years before moving to PCC in 2001. And since then, he has been the dean for English and world languages. And he has been instrumental with the Internationalization Committee since its inception. And he has also taken a lead role with the Asian Studies Committee at PCC. So without much ado, I would like to give the mic to Dave, and welcome once again, and hope you will enjoy the presentation and participate with a lot of questions. Thank you for being here.
Let's do that again. Usha really deserves an incredible amount of... You know, I've never been introduced that way, and it kind of makes me sound like I must not have been very good, or I wouldn't have had to go to one place after another. But it was actually stretched out over a lot of years. The first one was in 1974, so maybe if I say that, it doesn't sound quite so terrible. So it's my pleasure to moderate this panel this morning, and rather than introduce everybody at once, which would be one alternative, I'm going to introduce each speaker before they make their opening remarks. And after each speaker's opening remarks, I will ask if any of you have an immediate question for the speaker. And then after the third speaker, and I do the same thing, anybody have any immediate questions, then we'll open it up for any other questions that occur to you, okay? So it's my pleasure to start, and we're going to be working down from your left to right, our right to left. And Chris Seams is a living embodiment of how wonderful it is to be open and prepared for an international career. And he and I were just chatting in German back there because I have a German background, and he, couple 2-3 years ago, was an undergraduate double major, and one of those majors was German. Nice, right? And he's doing business, just bought a company in Germany. I was hoping to hear some oohs and ahs, but okay, thank you. I was impressed anyway. Okay, so I'm going to read you his bio. I'm sorry for having to read it. Usha obviously can memorize anything, but I can't. So Chris Seams is a global program director for mobile telecommunication providers within the Communication and Devices Group at Intel Corporation. Imagine how big his business card has to be. During his 19-year tenure at Intel, Chris has been in a variety of roles, including operations, international sales and marketing, supply chain, negotiations, M&A integration, and program management. And I didn't know what M&A was, and I should have asked him before.
Mergers and acquisitions.
Mergers and acquisitions. Okay. Prior to Intel, Chris held international positions at Gerber Legendary Blades and Soloflex. Chris graduated from the University of Oregon with a BA in International Business and German. He then received a Fulbright scholarship to study international economics at the University of Mannheim in Germany, and he later completed his MS in management at the Oregon Graduate Institute. So please join me in welcoming him, and be ready to be wowed.
Thanks, Dave. I'll take that as a compliment. I actually graduated a little bit more than 3 years ago. It was actually 1991 when I got my BA, so I wish I looked that young. So I want to thank the Committee for Internationalization for inviting me here today, and it's a privilege and an honor to be with each of you this morning. And you know, as much as I think and I hope that you are here to, hear me or hear us. I know that the food is also pretty attractive lure to bring you in on a day that you don't normally have school, but hopefully you get a few nuggets out of our conversation as well. So the theme, or the piece of the theme of this day today that really struck me was around cultural awareness. And a few days ago, in my spare time, I looked up the definition for culture, and I was reminded by just how many different definitions of culture there are. And so in order to give you some context of where I'm coming from, I'd like to give you my definition of culture. And that is really an accepted set of values, beliefs, behaviors, and shared common experiences. So I've been 19 years in high tech, and so I kind of have a geeky background. So if I think of it in terms of high tech terms, I think of culture in terms of being the software that provides us with the instructions by which we understand the world around us. Culture is innate. It affects everything we do, from what we think to how we act. So it's a pretty big deal. You can think of culture in terms of an iceberg. So above the waterline, you see the visible aspects of a culture. You can see the language, or you can hear and understand the language, hopefully. You see the gestures, you see the dress, the holidays, the customs, gender roles, business practices, and so forth. If you look under the water, though, you see a much more mammoth and larger structure, and that's the deep culture. And that includes things like communications, values, beliefs, and societal norms. And it's really this deeper aspect of culture where we tend to fall on our faces when dealing with other people from other countries. So cultural awareness is important. Cultural awareness is important. To me, though, that's kind of like saying puppies are cute. I mean, nobody's going to argue with that statement. And I just showed you a bias that I have, a personal bias towards dogs. In order not to offend half of the people here in this room, I'll also say that kittens are cute too. But the importance of cultural awareness goes well beyond just avoiding misunderstandings or embarrassing situations or creating harmony in a workplace. I maintain that cultural awareness is actually a business imperative. And leading companies use that to their competitive advantage. And I'll give you a couple of examples based on studies. There's an outfit in Oregon, in the UK, called the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. And they did a survey, and they found out that there were some key business benefits enjoyed by culturally diversity-oriented organizations. And what they found is that these culturally diversity-oriented organizations, they have greater access to different perspectives and information sources. They have a better understanding of their customers. They have improved communications with their customers. And they have greater legitimacy in the eyes of their customers. Each one of these facets is very important for business success. Another survey, this one done by McKinsey, and was run from 2008 to 2010 and included over 180 companies from France, Germany, UK, and the US, found that companies with a more culturally diverse executive board and senior management team, on average, had a 53% higher return on equity and 14% higher EBIT margins. That's earnings before interest and taxes. So 53% higher ROE and 14% higher EBIT. So that's significant, and that's very impactful. So these studies and many more studies that have been conducted in the past don't show a definitive connection between business success and cultural awareness, but I think they're onto something. Basically, I think where there's smoke, there's fire here. And I think that because I can draw from my own personal background and professional background. So if you've been in this area for a while, you probably know Intel. I'm familiar with Intel. So the company where I've worked for 19 years now is the largest semiconductor manufacturer in the world. We have over 17,000 employees based here in Oregon. This is our largest base of operations. And by the way, all of them work within 10 miles of where we're sitting. Worldwide, Intel has over 107,000 employees working at 170 different sites in over 70 different countries. And more than 75% of our business is done outside of the United States. So for Intel, multiculturalism, cultural awareness is a very big thing indeed. So at Intel, just like any other large and medium-sized company, we operate in a multicultural business environment every day. So I mentioned our customers are primarily overseas. Our suppliers are as well. We work with foreign governments. But I'm not going to say that every Intel employee works every day with a foreign customer or foreign supplier or government. But I feel pretty confident sitting here and telling you that most likely every single Intel employee has at least one international interaction every day, and that is with another Intel employee. And so when you multiply that by 107,000 times, you kind of see the scale and the importance of this to the company. But it's not just the large and the medium-sized businesses that are faced with the challenges and the opportunities of globalization. Small companies get drawn in as well. So in his 2005 book, which I highly recommend, called The World is Flat, Thomas Friedman describes this concept of a third wave of globalization, and he calls it Globalization 3.0. And Globalization 3.0 is really caused, or was caused by, and is being caused by and propagated by a variety of factors, including high-performance software, heavy compute power, and ubiquitous high bandwidth communications. Each of these factors conspire to pull on small companies, even very, very small companies, onto the world stage where they need to compete globally. So you can see, even for a very small company, it is very important that they deliver some level of cultural competency. So what is cultural acumen or cultural competency? To me, cultural competency is the ability for me to observe and interpret the behavior of people from various cultures, to understand that other cultures' set of values and assumptions, and mesh that with my own cultural context, and use that and translate that into a positive interaction with someone from a foreign culture. So I used myself as an example in this case because it all starts with me. There is no cross-cultural awareness without cultural self-awareness. So I need to understand what drives my own values, norms, beliefs, and biases towards dogs or other things. So, most companies do some sort of work in terms of helping their employees become more multicultural and be more culturally aware. So at Intel, for example, we have formal training programs in terms of cultural seminars and language courses and so forth. We also have field experiences where employees can go visit those foreign suppliers and visit those foreign customers directly. One really cool aspect at Intel is the use of international job rotations. And this is a key professional and personal development tool that Intel employs. And if you take a look at the upper level, senior level management at Intel, you would be very hard pressed to find anyone in there who does not have extensive international experience on their resume. So it's a path to get up the ladder. So we also do cross-geo mentoring, where you have a very senior person in one location, instill both their business acumen as well as their cultural acumen to a more junior person in another region of the world. And then finally, Intel is all about project teams and project work, and specifically international project teams. And in my group, many times what we do is we co-locate people from all over the world to work on a specific technical challenge and resolve it. So we get them all together in one place and they just hammer it out. So it's very effective, and it has a multiplier effect in terms of working with people from other parts of the world. So fundamentally, the case for cultural awareness is the case for diversity and inclusion, only on a global scale. So diversity is important and necessary, but it's not sufficient. So really, inclusion, facilitated by cultural awareness, is what really unlocks a company's human potential. So to be successful in a multicultural business environment, we have to think globally and act locally, starting with ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did we have any immediate questions, or did we want to move on to our next speaker? Who has a pressing question that grew out of out of Chris's remarks? Hearing none, I will move down to PSU, and it's my pleasure now. I'll get out of your way here.
Oh, I just wanted to call it up.
We're not at PSU yet. You can see we're still at Rock Creek. Okay, to my left, your right, stands Brenda Eichelberger, which is, by the way, another good German name. Not to beat this one to death. She's a senior level business instructor at Portland State. She's taught a variety of classes in the management and finance areas. Prior to working at PSU, Brenda taught at both PCC and Clackamas Community College. She was also able to teach in the far east of Russia, like way over to the right.
The island, even.
Maybe she'll tell us what.
Sakhalin. It's the island that actually is still being concerned with Japanese and Russian ownership.
Oh,
Lots of
yeah.
oil there.
Oh, is that what Sarah Palin could see from her porch? No. Okay, so far east of Russia and also in Serbia in the former Yugoslavia, as well as to learn and study social entrepreneurship in India. So if you think I've been around. Brenda has managed a small private business college and understands the challenges of operating businesses, especially in the state of Oregon. She's an active volunteer with Mercy Corps Northwest, serving on their loan review board and their women's business advisory board. Her passion is sharing financial and strategic tools so that students are able to achieve their goals. We look forward to you making that happen for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't get any applause. Thank you. I feel so much better. As an instructor, I have to walk to talk. That's just a requirement for me. I also like to have PowerPoints because I like to share with you great sayings and pictures. So what I have up here is it is not too late for your dreams to come true. In fact, the timing is perfect. What I want you to do, though, is work on exactly what your dreams are and dream big. So let's talk money. I'm a business person, okay? So how many people here would like to have $1 million? Okay. So I think that that is accessible to you. And there's a great song that is by the Bare Naked Ladies, and there I have it on YouTube. I don't want to link it for you, and thank God I'm not going to sing it for you. But I want to tell you that you have access to $1 million, and you will find that for yourself if you achieve some goals that you're already on the path to achieve. How? I would really like you to be succinct about choosing a major. The way that I get to see people who have excessive student debt is because they say they've been to 10 schools and had 5 different majors, and they're just now getting their, you'd see Becky's nodding, and they exceed even what the federal limits are. So surprisingly, I've looked at that and said, you know, it's really important to choose that major and at least get the bachelor's degree completed. Choose a school that fits you. So look at what schools are out there, and then do that on the basis of what kind of career. And how do you know what that's going to be? It's just like what my gentleman next to me was saying, is you really need to have effective self-assessment. What are your interests, your values, your skills? What's your desired lifestyle, location, cost? How do you develop your resume? I was talking to this gentleman earlier. You need to look at your resume like pieces of a puzzle that you're building throughout your life. You're not going to get a degree, graduate, and be with the same company for 45 years anymore. My father-in-law did that, and he did that successfully. But it's kind of a dinosaur view right now. So you need to constantly be adding to your toolkit. And I love the idea of knowing languages, adding degrees, knowing different international travel pieces. The clue is really just say yes a whole lot. Even when you don't think you're qualified, you don't know what the heck you're doing, why would anyone have asked you? Your answer is yes. Research career alternatives, match your skills and interests, research your potential earnings. And then we're seeing headlines all the time. Is college worth it? And one of the concerns, big concerns we have at Portland State is retention. We're seeing that we're losing 30% of our students as they transfer in. Why don't they graduate? What's going on with that? And I sometimes think it's because they don't have a clear target, and they don't know the affordability issues, and they don't know what the payoff is. So is college worth it? Average salary with a high school degree is about $30,000 in Portland. With a bachelor's, it's going to be about $45,000. Master's, it goes higher, and that is for 25 to 34 years of age. What I look at is that the biggest problem, we just had Adam Davidson come and speak at Portland State University about student debt, and he is the co-founder of Planet Money on NPR, national speaker, flew out from New York City. And what he said is you need that college degree, 4-year college degree, to get into the game now. It used to be a reserved seat to the middle class, but now, if you don't have a 4-year degree, it's incredibly difficult to find any job. If you look at the differential between the unemployment rates, it's much more difficult to get a job even when you are going for the lower salary, because we have a high level of just what our friend from Intel was saying, what Chris was saying, is you need to have those technical skills. You need to have those cultural awareness. You need to have the management skills. You need to be able to learn and grow. So with no high school diploma, look at the differential in that money. And with a bachelor's degree, yeah, you can have $50,000 a year, but what you have with some college and no degree, you have financial aid payments, you have debt. A high school graduate, you have fewer jobs and more people competing. So what I wanted to talk about is just the importance of successful transfer and the importance of just hammering down that 4-year degree and being sure that you fit what you want to have in that degree. And I'll tell you, it's some of the most exciting time of your life to be learning in the way that you can at a college. So what do we do at PSU with this topic of diversity? Portland State University, we have students enrolled currently from all 50 states and over 84 countries. Over 40% are persons of color, and of our employees, 25% are persons of color. 40 to 50% of our students are first-generation college students, and I think that's really big. Because what we're talking about is people who can't go home and ask mom, how was it when you were in college? What should I be doing? Well, I don't understand this financial aid. What should I be doing? And a father that understands that, you don't. It's like, okay, it's a new position for the family. And sometimes they're maybe not even as supportive as you'd want them to be. I've had some of my students come and say, my parents are telling me to drop out and get a job and help the family. And why am I spending all this money on tuition? So you need to be making the business case for why college is important and how long-term it will definitely pay off. Why do some of my students really enjoy being at Portland State? The main thing is the average age is 26. And so we have people, I've had people age 16. I've had a homeschooled ballerina who was fabulous. And I've had a woman that was 74, that when you're 65, you all of a sudden get to be free. And they really add to the discussion, I tell you, because they have real great stories. We have the highest number of veterans in Oregon universities. We have those at Portland State. We have a terrific veterans center, and we help them. And just Portland itself. I grew up in Portland. I'm a 5th-generation Oregonian that came ancestors across the Oregon Trail. We have never been cool. I mean, we've been rainy, we've been made fun of, we just haven't been cool. And all of a sudden, the last 5 years, we're cool. We're one of the top destinations. So I love that. I love that we're cool. And we happen to be the number 5 best city for female entrepreneurs, number 6 to launch a new business, number 7 for young entrepreneurs, and one of the best cities to live in. And Portland State itself ranks as one of the top 10 up-and-coming universities. That means we're hot and we're continuing to grow. So I think that's very exciting. How do I know about this? Well, I'll tell you, my favorite character is Glinda the Good Witch, because I had an older sister who was Linda, and she always told me I had to be the Wicked Witch, and she was the Good Witch. So now I've traded this out, and I get to be the Good Witch because she's older. And she hasn't seen this picture, so I don't tell her. But I am a graduate of Portland State. I've done postgraduate work there. I've got my master's. I've got my undergrad in psychology. But I was one of our typical students. I'm a patchwork quilt student. I went to Clackamas Community. I went to Benton Community. I went to Washington State University. No, I went to University of Washington. My husband went to Washington State University. Sorry, I messed that up. And I just want you to know at PSU, we have the widest variety of ages, viewpoints. We're a role model for transgendered and queer gay on campus. One of the top 10 in the United States. We have international students, and then we also have people from Beaverton. And I'll tell you, we've got them all. You would think that my job, you would think with my job that I would have thought, teaching at a college, why would you ever need to have international multicultural awareness? I'll tell you just what Chris was saying is you're going to work with people. All of my students are from all over the world. The world washes on the doorstep all the time. And then I've had some huge opportunities to travel, which he mentioned. So you have people that you're working with at Portland State anyway in your groups on a daily basis. I would say daily at Portland State, you're going to interact with somebody that is international, just like what we heard about Intel. We are part of a global community business-wise and education-wise. And more importantly, we individually interact and represent the global community based on your location. The United States is considered global, and I think everything we do reflects onto the world scale. So my goal, like Glinda the Good Witch, is to help empower students see that you have always had the power, my dear. You've had it all along, that the power is within you to make your dreams come true. Diversity and global citizenship is important because you, even as a very small business, even as a one-person business, are going to be buying and selling internationally. There's companies now that are born international. They have a website and their first order might come from India. So you need to know what the systems are. Over 50% of the financial markets are now outside the US. And you will have a diverse workplace locally and globally. Just in a quick summary, today's Portland Business Journal has Vim, our president, his title of the article that he's in is Developing the Global Perspective at PSU. Our president is committed to it. The PSU's #1 goal with diversity is to produce graduates who can be leaders in the global community. And I thought it was interesting that Chris brought up the world is flat. Thomas Friedman came and spoke at Portland State, and he started out by saying, all roads cross at Portland State at some time. In 1977, he did a summer intensive program as a graduate student in Arab studies. So I thought that it was really interesting that even Thomas Friedman has gone through Portland State. So I just want to end with, it is never too late for your dreams to come true. Set them big, and in fact, the timing is perfect. Hand you the mic. I was trying to get myself off of this.
Thank you very much. Did anybody have an immediate question? No. Okay, you're saving them for the end, I know. Thanks so much. Let me move ahead and introduce William Tung. He is the Vice President of International Distributors and Asia Direct at Columbia Sportswear and has been since 2013. He's been with Columbia Sportswear for 11 years, and he has served as the Vice President of International Sales and Operations and also Vice President of Latin America and Asia Pacific. Prior to joining Columbia, Bill lived and worked in New York City, in Hong Kong, London, and Tokyo, working for the Body Shop International PLC, and we all know what PLC stands for, right?
Not quite sure.
Do you? You want to tell us?
I don't think I remember anymore, but private limited, it's a UK-based company, so in the UK,
Okay.
private limited, it wasn't public at that time. Excuse me? Yeah, private limited corporation. It's owned by
Private limited corporation.
It's owned
There
by
you
Estee Lauder not Estee Lauder, L'Oreal Group these days, but back then it was privately held, so.
go. Okay. I apologize for my ignorance. Rockport Company also, and for Prince Racket Sports. And you may not know that he almost won Wimbledon in 1976.
This close.
Excellent.
I know. Bill graduated from Penn State with a BS in finance, and he has an MBA from the American Graduate School of International Management. Was that is that the Thunderbird School?
They've changed the name about 18 times
Right.
to graduate, so I can't keep up with the.
But it is still the Thunderbird School,
Yeah,
right?
it's-
So those of you who have heard of it may know it by that name. He's been teaching for PSU in the MBA International Management Program as well for a mere 10 years. So without any further ado, please welcome Bill Tung.
You want this? Thank you very much, and really thank you for inviting me to come and speak at this event, and really great presentations from the both of you. And I may add some comments onto what each of you have said, but first of all, I do want to say, I want to commend the students here for wanting to continue their education. That's fantastic, and I really kudos to all of you to looking on to whatever your path may be after PCC. I thought it was interesting the statistics you put up about salaries, and there's been a lot of press recently about college debt and how to finance all of that. You know, we have a lot of bumper stickers here in Portland, which is really amazing. And the best one I've ever seen was, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So, you know, that's, I don't see a lot of smart bumper stickers here in Portland, but that was the best one I've seen ever. So that was absolutely true. But I would also say, as Chris was saying, certainly cultural awareness. You know, we live in a very PC world here in America. And we're all trying to be the same, and you know, we shouldn't recognize that he's white, I'm Asian, she's African American or black. Oh, heaven forbid we say words like that. But people are different, and it doesn't make you a racist or a bigot to recognize that. And I think that sometimes we have such sensitivities. I'm about to start an international sales meeting on Monday up at Skamania Lodge for Columbia Sportswear. We got 25 different distributors coming from 50 different countries. I got to deal with a whole bunch of diversity. I can't treat everybody the same. People are different. So let's recognize that fact, shall we? Because I think that sometimes we get in the world of being very PC, and it sort of clouds our judgment sometimes. Doesn't mean we need to be bigots and racists either, but at the same time, we do need to recognize that people are very different. So talking about global trade, our president was here in Portland last week, and he was here to promote, I'm going to get it wrong, is it TTP, TPP, what is it? And the Trans-Pacific Trade, so he's trying to get that passed through, and so that is a good thing to increase trade. I think it's a free trade pact with about 11 different Asian countries. Politics aside, trade is a good thing. But I'd also want to talk about focus of what you're going to study and try to get a job afterwards, because that is really important today. And you're going to need to pick a specific area of study, whether that's marketing or finance or accounting or logistics or sales or whatever that may be. Because I think that what the students that I teach at PSU, what gets them into a bit of, and those are graduate students, what gets them into a bit of trouble and extends their studying time and extends their debt and their costs is they dabble. They try a little bit of this, they try a little bit of that, and it's fine. You can be sitting here and say, well, gee, I don't know if I want to be a marketing person or an e-com person or an accounting person or a supply chain. That's okay. That's why you're continuing your education, but you're going to need to pick an area of study, and I believe you're all business students here, so you've got that down. You're not looking to be a nuclear physicist or a brain surgeon or a dermatologist or a veterinarian. You've got within that field, But within that, you do need to pick a specific course. Now, in the interest of full transparency, I got my BS in finance, and I studied international finance at Thunderbird, and I've had this many finance jobs in my career. So I'm not being a hypocrite here, but I'm being quite truthful that you do need to pick an area of study. But I will also say at the same time, as you move on to your full-time degree, you'll have an opportunity to take your elective classes as well, and enjoy them. You don't think of them as a burden that you need to do, but enjoy them. My most enjoyable classes at Penn State was Egyptian art history and comparative religions of the East. What's that got to do with finance? Absolutely nothing. But those were certainly my most enjoyable classes. I'm sure that for you guys as well, it's probably outside of your actual areas of study, your most enjoyable classes, so enjoy them. How many people here are studying a foreign language? You're studying foreign language? Yes? So, learning another language is really, really important. I'm sure it's helped Chris in his career. I know it's certainly helped mine. But certainly, and Sarah will get upset at me here, so, but no, if you're gonna study a foreign language, study a foreign language. Don't dabble in the foreign language, because at the end of the day, applying for a job and say you kinda sorta speak Spanish, kinda sorta really doesn't matter. You know, I've met a lot of people, I interview a lot of people, I speak some French, and I took you 2 years of Japanese, you might as well not have done it at all. Because if you're actually gonna pursue it and you're gonna think it's going to lead to something as a job and a career, you need to go all the way. And so I'm not saying it's a waste of time to learn another language, because it does open the door of communication and cultural awareness and understanding. But if you're already down that path, I do encourage you to go all the way. And that doesn't mean you become fluent, but you need to get to a point where you become what they call highly proficient or near fluency, because that really helps. But you can't really hang your career ambitions on learning another language, certainly not in the business world, because you need to have, going back to that functional expertise, what is it that you are good at? Because if you're not good at anything, or you don't have that focus or that functional expertise, you can speak 10 different languages, but if you can't do anything, that, besides being a translator, it's not really gonna help you. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I can speak German, but that doesn't make me Einstein, does it? So you need to have that area of expertise to get down there. But, we've talked a lot about cultural awareness, and that's very important. But, to getting that job after you graduate, and you can take classes at various schools of cross-cultural communications or comparative this or comparative that, I've never hired anybody because they were culturally aware. I've fired people that were not culturally aware. But to get that first job, you need to have that functional expertise. And if you have that other language, that's great as well. But unfortunately at Columbia, we're not as evolved as Intel. So I'm the cultural attaché at Columbia. So I do the culture. Yeah, I know. We're going through this SAP training and process around the world. So all roads lead through my desk of what's it like to do business in Japan or China or Korea. So that's, we're not as evolved as Intel. We need to talk to your HR people.
I hope you get through that well. Good luck.
And I'm a non-technical person. So.
We have a course for that.
What's that? Yes, I'm sure you do. So really, as students, I can really only encourage you to read as much as possible. There's so much information today that compared to when we were studying, but whether it's the Wall Street Journal or the TED Talks or The Economist, just read, and read, because that's how you gain knowledge outside of the classroom. So that's all we really have to share, Dave, and I welcome any comments now or later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Usha, have you designated somebody to run around with a mic to the various questioners? because I'm the Dean of World Languages, I am going to take 30 seconds and underscore what Bill said and what I think Chris represents. And I don't know, Brenda, your language abilities for Russian or for something in Hindi or something like that. But in any event, learning a language well, in depth enough to be able to have meaningful conversations with native speakers, is a threshold. It's a doorway. And if you learn Spanish really well, or German, right, and spend some time in a country where that is the prevailing language, if you then get hired by Columbia or by Intel or some other international organization, your having gone through that process once means that you will have developed the ability to learn about other cultures and interact intelligently in those cultures. And so even if you end up working in that company on a project in Japan, having learned Spanish well will have prepared you well for that. And do you all agree with that?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay, so who has a question for our guests? We got time, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of time, and it's amazing that German seems to be a common thread among the panelists there. I just wanted to bring it up that there are also note cards placed in the table if you would prefer to write the questions. Scott and I can read those questions. And I actually had a question for the panel. A lot of our students are already working. They have 1 or 2 jobs, and they're working either on a couple of part-time jobs or a full-time job and going to school full-time. And picking a major is, I hope I'm speaking on behalf of the students. At what point should they pick a major? And because, like Dave said, there are courses at institutions for a variety of areas. Even within business, there are so many majors that they can focus. In terms of employability, what would you recommend? Students pick a major and stick to it, or should they? I know Bill sort of touched on that about having a variety or trying out different things. For them to, in all this, we don't want students to take a number of courses and extend that graduation date. So do you have any piece of advice for the students?
You gotta go first.
Well, I can go ahead and go first because not only am I a business person, but I also teach the personal finance class. So I'm very sensitive about student debt issues and trade-offs that everybody has to make. But what I'd also say is that we heard Bill say he got his degree in finance. He's used 0 to do a finance job, but it's influenced everything he has done and the way that he thinks. I would also say what you have is the German, but it helps you in Japanese, which was just what our moderator Dave said. So what I would say is, please don't put so much importance on your degree that you have stood still looking at it. When they went around the table when you were in kindergarten, they didn't say, I'm going to be a police officer, I'm going to be a fireman, well, I'm going to own manufactured housing communities, and I'm going to be an app developer. Well, you didn't know those jobs existed, and the app developer did not exist. So don't put way too much importance on what I'm going to be when I grow up and I have to do this for the rest of my life. Actually, the answer should be when someone says, what do you want to do when you grow up? You should say, I'm completing my degree in X. I project that I'll have that job for 2 to 3 years, and then I'll probably transition into something else. My guess, in 10 years, as historically has been demonstrated, 50% of the jobs out there will no longer exist, and there'll be 50% more different ones. So I'm focusing on learning well, setting goals, completing tasks, and learning to play well in the sandbox with others.
If I may, I think sort of adaptability.
Yeah.
Yeah, is very important. Yes, you do need to pick a major, yes?
Yes.
They all eventually need to
Yes.
pick a major. You're not going to graduate without a major, so you're going to have to pick one, but you can't be that narrowly focused for the rest of your life, so.
Yeah, I think another aspect that Brenda touched upon is the fact that once you finish here at PCC and go on to college and finish a bachelor's, maybe a master's, maybe even a PhD, the journey of learning has not ended. It doesn't cut off, right? So if you want to be successful in the future, given that job lifespans are much, much shorter than they used to be, you have to have the adaptability, but you also have to have, be open to the inputs and understand the environment and see where things are going. If your current job is going away for whatever reason, based on your past experiences and your interests, okay, what doors are open there that you can take that step at the right time? So it's just an ongoing thing. Never, like Bill said, continue reading, continue learning, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm going to put you all on the spot a little bit. Try to imagine, if you will, a way to measure how much of what you know and are able to do today in your various positions did you learn in college?
No.
Not much, right?
So you say, well, why did you go to college? Well, I wouldn't be here today unless I had taken that step. So it helped build the character of who I am today. So it was essential. I couldn't do what I do. We couldn't do what we do today unless you had that college degree. But so I can't say one specific thing. But I would say what was really most enjoyable and perhaps most educational about my college experience was being very involved in student government and being a student leader, being in charge of a student publication there. So when you get involved, just don't go and take classes. Be involved. Be a part of your community. And there's so many opportunities for this club or that club or this organization and get involved, because that's where you learn life skills outside the classroom of actually doing. So plug yourself in. I think I spent the first 2 years in college playing basketball and tennis, and then it wasn't until my junior year that I actually got involved in being active in organizations at school. And I looked back and said, God, I wasted 2 years playing basketball and tennis. So it was fun, but I wasted 2 years playing basketball and tennis. So
It was worth it to get to Wimbledon, though.
I came this close.
Do you two want to take a stab at that?
Absolutely, I'll take a stab. So I was born and raised in Idaho, but I'm also first-generation American. So I knew at a fairly early age that I wanted to do something, explore the world, get the heck out of Moscow, Idaho, for one, and see some of the world. And fortunately, my family had the resources to help with that. So I knew very early on that I wanted to do, something in the international business space. Now, did that prepare me, my college experience when I was, studying German and international business and later economics, did that prepare me to go in and negotiate a deal with a foreign manufacturer or, mergers and acquisitions and so forth? Absolutely not. But that's stuff that you pick up as you go, right? So I think, again, it's just having that flexibility and having a very wide base, and then really pursuing what is in your core interest, right? So you're not going to be successful if you really don't like what you're doing. So, I have 2 children as well, and one is just ready to go off to college here in the fall, and he's very concerned about the college debt issue, and I need to somehow get some return on investment, right, and get into a job and stuff like that, and and I'm trying to dissuade him in thinking in those terms, right? I mean, that's obviously important, especially as a parent who's going to be footing that bill, but I want him to graduate and do something that he really loves to do and doesn't feel like he's obligated and put into a straitjacket because of that. So,
Well, my story's a lot different because I am the youngest of 4 girls, and my dad was an alcoholic, and he left when I was 12 on Mother's Day, which is quite a clever thing to do. And we didn't have any money. So my mother ended up getting her PhD. She returned to school, and education became very important in my household. And we lived on food boxes and some food stamps and different things. So for me, I was a very good student, and I said, I'm never going to be dependent on a man, and I'm never going to be dependent on a job that I hate. So I decided I was going to go to college, and I did it with 2 years at Clackamas Community College, and we did it at PSU. My mother paid my books, I paid my way. I worked while I was in school, got my degree in psychology, but started taking business classes at that time, but I didn't have enough money to get a degree in business, so I continued and got the degree in psychology. I worked with battered women, and I worked with first-time juvenile offenders. And what I found is that crazy people are kind of crazy. So it was very difficult for me. It wasn't a good fit. And then I started going up the ranks of being in charge of programs, because I tend to like to be in charge of things. And I found that I needed to get my MBA in order to be in charge of things. I ran a Job Training Partnership Act program and a private business college that trained people, particularly women, hardcore unemployed, and return to work. It was in the 1980s. And I saw education as a pathway to control your life. So I became very committed to it. And when I had my first child, I had to decide how to balance my time a little better. And I needed to have the skills to understand computers. I needed the skills to understand legal. I needed the skills to understand accounting, because I was running a large business, and all of a sudden my lawyer was coming in and telling me what to do. My accountant was telling me what to do, and I was buying tens of thousands of dollars worth of computers, and I wasn't comfortable with that. So I completed my MBA, and I have felt very much like I have used all of that technical skill, and that's in part why I teach it, because I love the students that I see. I love the light bulbs going on. I love seeing them have access to something that they thought they were not allowed to play in the game, and all of a sudden they're out there, they're doing it, they're coming back, they've got great stories. And I feel that the skills are really important, including just learning how to leverage that little equal sign between how interest takes away from you if you're in debt, and interest gives you if you have a little bit investment. So I'm very excited about the things that business help you control your life and set your own path.
Oh, thank you, all three. That's really interesting. I was kind of asking it as a loaded question because as essential as your undergraduate education is, it's kind of a means to an end rather than an end in itself. And I think many people didn't learn what has made them successful while they were in college. They learned how to learn, right? And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. That you write that research paper not because you always want to research Virginia Woolf or global warming or something, but because you need those skills. You have to be able to communicate well orally and in writing, and think critically, and work as a member of a team effectively. And these are themes that all three of our speakers have. So if you get frustrated with a specific course, keep going, because what they're asking you to do there will matter, even if it's indirectly. Okay, anyway, but you didn't come here to hear me. Who has another question? We haven't heard from nearly enough students.
You've talked about the importance of foreign language. If like I have not chosen a foreign language to study yet, or well, I did, but it was 30 years ago, and I don't remember anything of it. Do you see a specific foreign language being more important in the business world, or is it just in general learning a foreign language and having that learning skill?
I'll take that one. I think it's actually a combination of both, but it matters. A lot of it depends on your geographic location. So I think more practically, right? So, for example, when I was in high school, we had a choice. We had an option of learning either French or Spanish, and so I took the Spanish route because I saw it was more practical, it was more applicable to, I was able to use it more. And actually, my son is now studying in his 5th year of Spanish. As a senior at Westview, so he's kind of taken the same philosophy ahead. But I think that, and I started off learning Spanish, and I got to a point where I was almost fluent. And then I went to college, and I pretty much tossed that aside and picked up German, and then just went full tilt on German. And I'm able to go back now, years after the fact, and I still have, I would say, proficient Spanish, but it's really ugly when I start mixing in the German words with the Spanish words. It's pretty humorous, actually. But it's really, like Dave said, is going through that process of learning. And I think once you learn one and you kind of establish the process that's comfortable for you for learning a foreign language, it really helps when you pick up a new one, right? But for me, unfortunately, and there are some people that speak 5 languages or more, but for me, it's kind of hard on the retention side to keep the languages kind of split and in their own discrete buckets. But I would highly, actually for me too, and this is a true story, about, what was it now, 4 years ago, I was taking my sabbatical. So Intel offers all of its employees, after 7 years, a fully paid 8-week sabbatical. And so I took my sabbatical, and when I came back, I found that my group had basically imploded. It went away, and I had no job. So that was a little disconcerting. But also while I was away and traveling with my family, Intel had announced that they had made a purchase of a German company. And as it turned out, my former boss was the integration manager of that acquisition. And he was an Indian citizen. He had no German background, and he knew that I spoke German fluently. So German literally saved my butt and kept me employed at Intel, just based on that alone. So there are factors, right? So normally, language, even language fluency, is a differentiator for a job candidate or for an employee. But in this case, it was actually the thing that kept me in the ballgame.
I think I get asked that question a lot because in the PSU MIM program, they have to choose a language, either Mandarin or Japanese. I think they're teaching Korean now as well. So which one do I pick? Or certainly a lot of junior executives that I meet or undergrads that I meet, I'd like to learn another language. Which one's going to get me the job? 20 years ago it was all about Japanese, and so now it's Mandarin, yes? But you need to have a personal interest in the people and the culture of what language you're going to learn as well. So we can't always be that pragmatic as well, because you can say, yeah, okay, Mandarin's the thing of the day today, but if you aren't interested in China or you don't like Chinese people, then you're not going to learn Chinese very well. But if your passion is German or Spanish, then that's then you're going to be much better at learning that language if you have that affinity and that personal interest. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, so there you go, So, I mean, if you can pick an obscure language, career-wise, that may not help you too much. I don't want to offend anybody here, but, there may be languages that are not as relevant. You can go learn Greek, but, outside of Greece, that probably doesn't help too much, so.
Well, I'll add my 2 cents with that, just because I took 3 years worth of Spanish, but I really have not used it very much. I would say the best thing that I've done is gone ahead and traveled extensively. So if you have the opportunity, I get by on the kindness of strangers. Amazingly, everywhere, all over the planet, you can find someone who can help you with the English. But to get over the idea that you can't ask for help and that there's only one right way to do things, I think that's what I've learned the most from travel, is going to India and seeing they have 1,000 ways to do things, and in some ways they're better, and in some, everything is a trade-off. So there's different ways in Russia that they are connected to each other and resourceful in a way that just totally surprised me. There are also people that are very limited by what the government allows and doesn't allow them to do. So I think being able to extensively travel or to get to know the people that you have with you in groups here, invite them to dinner, go ahead. And one of the most interesting things that I did was one of my fellow PhD students was an Orthodox Jew, and he invited us to Sabbath dinner on Friday night when the sun went down. And oh my gosh, it was very memorable and interesting to see how someone in Portland would live completely different than I do. So expose yourself to as many different opportunities as you can, whether you can take the language or just meet the people, or fortunately, if you can, travel.
Okay, good. I'm glad to see the hands going up. I saw yours first.
So for years now, a lot of us have been told that technology is where it's at. That is the industry to be in, that's where all the growth is. And I personally, as well as much of us, like the business aspect. What do we need going forward trying to get into the technology field and take advantage of that growth from a business aspect?
So, I mean, I think there are many different aspects of technology, but I mean, to address the kind of the first premise too, I mean, there is growth in technology, but you can't really take a look at it as a unified whole, right? There are parts of the technology industry which are doing quite well, but it's almost like a self-cannibalizing industry, right? It eats its own young, and it just cycles forward, right? So, which makes it very difficult, of course, and it goes back to the earlier point in terms of, maintaining your employability through continued learning, even after the, academic experience is over. But, I think that the two main things is like we were talking about with languages and some of these other aspects, you got to find a certain niche that really appeals to you. And, to some that might be coding, right? Which you can pick up even, anywhere in the school through, these MOOCs and, all sorts of different channels. So there's that. I think that, you also need to find a right fit, because even within the Portland area, and I know that PCC and PSU, they do have, they do enable opportunities through internships and other ways to match make very motivated students with different companies. And this is, I think, an opportunity where people can do a little bit of exploration, because they can kind of get their feet in wet. And if they say, okay, I'm really into coding, and here's maybe 3 or 4 companies here in downtown that really need some coders, you can do a 2 or 3 month summer internship and really get an understanding. And if that doesn't appeal to you after that, then it's like, okay, what's the next thing that you want to do? So, but I mean, you also, one point there is that you should leverage those opportunities as they're there. So you really got to explore the resources that are available to you, either through PCC, PSU, or wherever you end up.
I would just add that what you have is you've got blank business. So one of my instructors was really pretty good on the cello, but then he found out that he wasn't good enough. There's only very few people who are that good can make a business out of being a cello player. So what he did is he found there was the music business, and then he started his own business called Fernhill Music, and now he's written a book called The Wrecking Crew, and he was the Oregon Book of the Year. But what he did for 2013, what he did is he says, it's music business. If you're an artist or a sculptor, it's the art business. If you are someone like Phil Knight and you go ahead and you're a runner, but you aren't that good of a runner. You're good and you had a good coach, but you just aren't that good. So then you say, okay, I really like the athletic business. And I think there's an opportunity for overlay of business with technology, with art, with music, with any of those things. And so there's basic skills that you want to learn how to maximize and leverage whatever other passion you have.
No, okay, no.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for being here. It was pretty invigorating listening to your comments. I have a degree from UC Berkeley in entomology and marine biology, and I'm planning to enter a PSU, the post-baccalaureate accounting program. So I'm asking all of you, what is maybe a key point or suggestion in securing an internship or mentorship?
Apply.
Besides applying,
Take the first step.
is it taking certain classes? Is it doing volunteer work?
What are you looking for an internship in accounting?
It would be accounting.
Yeah.
But
so-
you could speak in generalities. I mean, I'm sure everyone's here different interests in business.
Yeah, but you're looking for an internship specifically in accounting or finance
Right.
department,
This would be my third career. I was a journalist and I was an investigator. So,
along
is
with
there,
a biologist.
do you see it as
and-
certain
and-
classes? Do you see it just doing volunteer work or just?
Well, at Columbia Sportswear, we have interns in the summer. I'm sure Intel's got many, many more interns. So now is the time to apply for those internships. I don't think they're listed on our website, or maybe they are, quite frankly, I don't know. But you contact those HR departments and you send in, well, you get to know somebody at those companies, and then you just make those applications for, you're talking about summer internships, right?
I'm looking more to the school year. I'll be doing some intensive classes and
Yeah,
maybe taking Arabic.
we
so
have
school year.
sometimes some part-time or interns, then it's not just summer interns either, so it's just finding what that is and focusing on what that interest may be, and that your field of study would be accounting, right? Yeah, so I think that we've got a lot of bean counters at Columbia. I'm sure they've got a lot of bean counters
yeah.
there as well, so.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that Bill is spot on, right? I mean, do a survey of the local companies that you're interested in, and then apply and network. You know, use opportunities like this to talk to Bill or talk to me. Intel has a year-round intern program, and it's kind of interesting actually because right now I'm not sure if many of you know this, but a couple months ago at the Consumer Electronics Show, our CEO Brian Krzanich was really kind of a bombshell type of announcement where they said that by 2020 we're going to reach full diversity within our corporation. So if you know historically, the high-tech industry has a very, very low percentage of diverse employees, and that's females, technical females, you know, African Americans, Native Americans, LGBT, and so forth. So over the next 5 years, we're going on a very intense campaign to increase that, you know, diversity number, and not just to hit a metric by any means, right? It's more of, okay, let's instill kind of the spirit, but then also let's help lift the rest of the industry up. And you're starting to see now other companies based in Silicon Valley like Google and Yahoo that are starting similar programs. So there's a lot of opportunities, particularly I would say for you know, for diverse individuals to do that, and the internship program is a pipeline to get into, you know, full-time regular employment. But this also goes for you know, what we would call non-diverse, or you know, in some cases what we call overrepresented minorities as well. So you know, take advantage of those options, right? Work with the placement offices at the schools, and you know, when you're walking around town, you know, get out, get to meet people, network, go to events like these or others. The World Trade Center has a host of events year-round that provide a lot of opportunities because a lot of business leaders go to those events. So utilize those.
I just have to add, Portland State, we have been focusing and growing our internship program immensely in this past couple years. You can do it for credit or not for credit. What I have found though, Becky and I have started a program called Fearless Fridays because our students don't know how to write a good resume. So even if you think you have a good resume, have at least 3 other people review it, because I review resumes and they have misspellings on them. And the trouble is, it's like driving. You have a blind spot in your address, the way, or something, your name even, or Oregon. You read it and you correct it so you don't see that problem. We also had Nike come and talk with us, and they have 48,000 resumes sent to them every month. So what you want to do is learn how to effectively look at a job opportunity, use your keyword searches. You should do a targeted resume for every single opportunity that you have. And we have a Career Connect program. We also have now, Becky's nodding here because the two of us have put together this program, and then with another professor at Portland State, we have an SBA Passport. What we found is over 50% of our students don't take advantage of the services we offer, and then they go, why can't I have a job? And we're like, well, give us your resume. Well, I don't have a resume. Well, let's write a resume. That's crap. Let's do a better resume, because that doesn't represent how awesome you are. And then they come back, and surprisingly, we have career fairs, and I made all of my students go for a 5-point extra credit and let them out early, and they had to explain to me why they didn't go. And one of them had 4 job offers. That was last week's career fair. She came back with 4 job offers. So definitely the jobs are out there. What we have is a responsibility to really know how to bridge that gap, to let people know how wonderful and terrific and diverse our students are. And you can see, go on the Intel site, they have all kinds of internships that don't go filled even. So what we want to do is be sure to help and prepare you, and we've got great resources, and that's the lady right there who can tell you everything, Becky Sanchez.
Yeah, and if I can add just one more thing on top of what the panel said, student group involvement is really key. While you're at Portland State, we have an organization called Beta Alpha Psi, and that's the accounting student organization. And the students who are really engaged with Beta Alpha Psi, the students who are officers in Beta Alpha Psi, every one of them get 4 or 5 job offers and internships. And so really getting involved, not just in the activities like the career planning workshops that we have, but also getting involved with the other students and engaging with the employers, because that's what the student organizations do, is they connect with employers and bring them to campus.
Yes, I can. Thank you, Becky. I teach accounting here, and a lot of the PCC students moving to PSU, and once they join Beta Alpha Psi, I have been in close touch with many of them, and they connect with me in LinkedIn, and they keep me updated, and it's really wonderful to know about their job opportunities. At PCC end also, we have career services that does help with the resume building, and they are at different campuses, but students, a student who is primarily taking classes at Rock Creek can also use services at different campuses. It's not that you have to go where you take classes. You can contact them via email. And in terms of internship, a lot of the local internships are posted on the Career Services website. And here at Rock Creek, we post hard copies of those in front of the classroom. And we have 2 classrooms here. The business bulletin board, it's constantly updated, and I've seen many Intel internships there. Some are very short, 3 months, and some are 9 months long. And sometimes it's contracting companies who work with Intel, and they're posting it. So if you haven't noticed it, come and see me. I can tell you where it is. And please, many times we see students checking out the bulletin board. So you should go and check that often to see what is changing. So
I'll just add one quick research fact. Those people who have done a paid internship, their starting salaries are 36% higher. Starting salaries when they graduate, 36% higher. So you look at the fact that most of your life you're looking for an increase here. If you can start up here, it makes a huge difference over lifetime earnings. So that should be a top priority. Both my kids had 3 internships by the time they graduated with their bachelor's degrees.
I'll reiterate that point. Was before my senior year in college, I actually did an unpaid internship, so that probably means I made about 30% less than people. But no, the experience is invaluable, and again, it's a differentiator and helped me get the foot in the door for my first job, for sure.
So along the lines of global cultural awareness, how important is regional cultural awareness? Like, I've lived from coast to coast and everywhere in between, and every place is different and has their own issues. How much more important or less important is regional awareness?
I think it's equally important. The U.S. is a huge country, and as you've really correctly stated, there are subcultures within what we know as Americana, right? So the South is much different than the Northwest, a very obvious example. So, looking at the big picture, the end goal is to have those productive interactions when you talk with others, right? So if you don't understand the background of people, because I work pretty extensively in the telco business, right? So, for example, AT&T is located in Dallas and Atlanta and, a lot of South. I'm working with NASCAR on some different wireless technologies as well. Very, very Southern based, right? And it has its own culture. so it is very important to understand that background. And again, you know, and I'll admit this, I you know, having been born and raised in Northwest, I am biased towards people either Northwest or West Coast. And it really wasn't until I started spending a little bit of time in the South that I really changed my preconceived notions of people who, you know, were born and raised there, right? So it is very important to, again, you know, to get that engagement, but to check your own biases at the door when you do that.
Local matters, so whether that's New York to LA or Bangalore to New Delhi or Tokyo to Osaka, in every country, you know, to say, gee, all the Japanese are like this is rather ignorant, because there's vast differences. Or all Indians are like this, or all Chinese, I mean, Beijing to Shanghai, I mean, so all Chinese are like, so yeah, obviously applies to America as well, why not? This is not a homogeneous society here. But even in countries where you do have an ethnically homogeneous society, like Japan, there's different subtleties there as well. So yeah, absolutely.
We have time for one, maybe two questions. Yes.
You guys all mentioned you went to different colleges and got different degrees. Do you recommend doing that, or do you recommend staying at one school?
I got
Through
my
a master's.
Oh
or
yeah, I
PhD?
got, because I got my undergrad. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, so it was either go to Penn State, it was a state school for my, you know, financially for my parents. But my graduate program in Arizona, the nickname's Thunderbird. It just specialized in international management. So I always knew I wanted to have an international business career. So after I got my bachelor's degree, I very much knew that I wanted to continue on and be a little bit more focused with a specific international degree after that.
For me, it was a little different because, like I said, I wanted to get out of Dodge where I grew up, and I ended up going to the U of O primarily because they had a very strong, and still do have a very strong exchange program, which I almost immediately took advantage of. And I got my master's here in the Portland area, and you know, a major factor of that was that actually my employer paid for that. So I highly recommend that if you have that opportunity to do that, because that's great. But there are definitely pros and cons, right? I mean, you can make the argument that it is actually good to do an undergraduate at one place and get your graduate degree at another, because you get different perspectives from different professors, right? And the colleges tend to have different education styles or different things that they focus on, or different specialties, right? On the other hand, it can also be good, especially if you find that niche, right? If you want to study economics, you know, Penn is fantastic, or finance, to do that all the way through, right? So, you know, it really depends. It's impossible for us to make a recommendation one way or another, right? Again, it depends really on you, what your interests are, and you know, the strength of the various options that you have in front of you.
I would just add that some people just don't have the luxury of being able to pick up and move, because you've got kids, you've got mortgage, you've got jobs, you've got parents, you've got other things that will keep you location-based. And so my priority has always been to get what I can, where I can, when I can, at the lowest cost possible to me. So I've been very happy to be able to get terminal degrees from Portland State. But I also went to the community colleges all around, and I find that anywhere I go, I end up learning about the people and the different ways things are. So travel's good. So I would agree, pros and cons.
And I would add that there's a untapped resource all around you. How many different faculty members have you had? How many faculty have you had in classes? Can you count them on one hand, two hands, hands and feet? Ask all these different people. The people who you see in front of the classroom are like college nerds, right? They went to a lot of college. And no one, I don't think, would mind if you went to office hours and said, tell me about this college thing. Like, where did you go? What did it mean to you? When did it click? How did you know you wanted to do this or that? I mean, these stories are fascinating, and these folks have succeeded, but you know, your faculty members have as well, and go ahead and ask them. This guy sitting in the front here, Jeff Dakin, I mean, he has a wild story. You wouldn't believe it. And no, I'm not going to tell it. Did you want to ask something?
I just had a question, which in some ways it's really been answered in little pieces, but I wanted to especially give Chris and Bill a chance to maybe add to this particular piece, and it sort of ties with both themes that you were bringing up. So cultural awareness, international awareness, I think you're both commenting on how important it is, but Bill, you mentioned that that's not necessarily something on the resume that will get you the job. It's just not having it could hinder you. And so language fluency is one of those things that is a concrete transferable skill and that can differentiate. But beyond language fluency, what kinds of background experiences, those kinds of things do you look for as indicators that people have that cultural and international awareness?
You know, you can speak multiple language and you can still lack cultural awareness as well. So they're not mutually exclusive. Also, it's the EQ factor. You know, so it's not so much did you get straight A's, did you get a perfect SAT score, did you graduate from this school or that school, but it's that innate EQ of you as a human being of, you know, can you actually look somebody in the eye and have a conversation and, you know, just be able to be aware of other people. Self-awareness you talked about, Chris, you know, being aware of yourself, but also being aware of other people as well. And that's being able to connect with others. So that's why while you're in school, it's good to get involved in activities and clubs, take a leadership position so you get that experience before you step outside.
Do you
Yes, go ahead.
those as indicators when you're...
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, did you just study and you just go to school and you did nothing else? You know? Because, you know, quite frankly, I don't care what your GPA was, you know, unless it was really, really low. But otherwise, we don't really care.
Yeah, I totally agree with Bill. I think it's, you know, what we look for is the ease with which someone is able to associate with different people, right? And being to kind of seamlessly, you know, go from, you know, one conversation to next in a room full of, you know, international people. Bill was saying at this, you know, supplier, you know, face-to-face that he has up in Washington coming up next week, right? So, you know, the ability to do that, you know, basically shows that, you know, you've got this high tolerance and comfort level in dealing with people, you know, of all stripes, and you know, that will always serve you well no matter what you do, if it's in high tech or, you know, low tech or, you know, whatever. But it's clearly a thing that is intangible, and you can't really measure it, and you know, you don't really know as a hiring manager. You know, I will see a resume, and quick side note, just to add on to Brenda's part, please do not send the resume with a typo or a spelling error. And that doesn't mean just using spell check. Have it checked by about 3 other people. Otherwise, you might as well walk in an interview with your shirt untucked and, you know, flip-flops, because it's going to have the same effect. So, but anyway, I think that you know, that being able to do that, you know, have, you know, good, you know, powerful, productive conversations with a variety of people isn't something that you can check off, but it's certainly something that people, you know, at Intel is part of our, you know, annual performance review. You know, the managers will get together and based on, you know, 360 assessments of their employees' peers, and also conversations in terms of, you know, me as a manager, and I'm hearing from my peers, yes, this person in your team is, you know, exceptionally good at doing this, and, you know, these are the soft skills, right? Those are the ones that will actually lead them to a promotion versus, you know, I am a top 10% coder, right? Again, those skills are necessary, but there's much more to it.
I would just add that that's something that takes practice too, and at 12 o'clock we're having a training at Portland State about inclusiveness in group development for the faculty, because we have a lot of groups and you get comfortable and productive and powerful by working with a variety of people and understanding that when someone's not talking, especially if you're the American, someone's not talking is probably because you didn't shut up. So what you need to do is learn about yourself in a really safe place, and that's what we're trying to get even better at Portland State with our diversity and inclusion and opportunities with group development, because we have people from all over the world that are just, right next to you at a table.
Can I just add one more comment? I think you touched upon it. While you are here at PCC, if you haven't gone to see your teachers during their office hours to get to know them and to pick their brains, I mean, that's a resource that you haven't tapped in. You're paying for it, so you might as well use it. So go see. I teach a class at PSU every summer. I'm amazed how many students don't bother to come and see me. Maybe I'm boring, maybe they don't like me, fair enough, but I think they're missing out on something, so.
And you hear people complain a lot about the fact that we have so many part-time faculty, but a lot of those part-time faculty are dynamite. They have incredible life and professional experience, and you have access to all of them. So, okay, please join me in thanking our amazing panel.